As Gandalf the Grey racked his brains for the password to the Doors of Durin, Boromir idly threw a pebble into the stagnant lake before him. In the blink of an eye, writhing tentacles shot out and slithered straight towards Frodo. We're talking about this slimy creature in today's Marvellous video. The Watcher in the Water, as the Dwarves named it, was the luminous beast that haunted the West Gate of Moria with devilish intent. A primordial mass of tentacles older than Sauron. Let's also take a look at a Lovecraftian nightmare that never failed to instill sheer cosmic terror in all those unfortunate enough to stand before it. It's the ultimate showdown between the Watcher in the Water and Cthulhu. But before we go into our explanation, we have a very small request. If you like our content, please support us by subscribing to our channel. This is a small click for you, but for us it means a lot. Thank you. Let's begin. Watcher in the Water origins and nature. To understand how the creature came to dwell so close to the once glorious Dwarven kingdom, we must first look at the history preceding it. The Cyrano River was a gate stream which flowed freely through the lands of Eriador and right by the West Gate of Khazad-dûm. The Elven Way ran between the realms of Khazad-dûm and the city of Osten-Elden, with the path leading right up to the Doors of Durin. The doors, constructed by Narvi the Dwarf and Elven Smith Lord Celebrimbor, signified the friendly alliance between the Noldor elves of Eregion and Durin's folk of Khazad-dûm. But in the year 1697 of the Second Age, this jovial joy seemingly came to an end when Sauron besieged Eregion, prompting the dwarves of Khazad-dûm to retreat into their kingdom and shut the gates to the outside world for a considerable age. Soon, the digging dwarves awakened an ancient terror, the Balrog, who killed the king and came to be known as Durin's Bane. Khazad-dûm, which was then referred to as Moria, was overrun by creatures of the shadow, all who revered the Balrog. The colony of dwarves took on hordes of orcs and goblins who infected their halls. They seemed to win at first, taking most of the eastern wings and remaining in peace for a short 5 years. The orcs attacked again, this time successfully killing Balin, which forced the dwarves to flee to the West Gate. The dwarves discovered that the damned orcs had built a rudimentary dam that collected into a stagnant pool covered in foul algae right by the Doors of Durin. The once lucrative Elven Way, which ran between Khazad-dûm and the city of Osten-Edhill, was eventually submerged in water, with hardly any space to walk along the gates. The last thing written by the surviving dwarves before they were killed was, "The pool is up to the wall at West Gate. The Watcher in the Water took Owen. We cannot get out." In the depths of these waters lurked a massive beast that was described to have countless glowing tentacles with fingered ends. It slithered and writhed around discreetly in the waters under the mountain, unbeknownst to anyone oblivious enough to get too close to the lake. Keep in mind that Tolkien ensured that the Watcher's nature was shrouded in mystery, as this never failed to invoke a buried primal fear of the unknown in his readers. Tolkien heavily suggested that creatures like the Watcher that dwelt in the dark, forgotten corners of the world and those fouler and older than the orcs were created before the beginning of time. But we'll get to speculations later on the video. Encounter with the Fellowship of the Ring. Let's go back to when the creature first appeared with the Fellowship of the Ring. The Fellowship, with Frodo as the ring-bearer, set off from Rivendell. Gandalf somewhat reluctantly led them towards Moria, in hopes that the Dwarven kingdoms still stood free of Sauron's ravages. Aragorn mysteriously revealed that he had once passed through Moria, but did not wish to do so again. Yet they arrived by the Great Grey Wall of Moria, as Gandalf sat himself before the doors and began guessing the password. Boromir soon grew tired of waiting, frustrated even at this wretched place with the doors stubbornly remaining shut. Even Frodo expressed that he felt afraid of the stagnant pool that lay before them. Boromir proceeded to throw a large stone into the lake, which rippled, bubbled, and lay still once again. Just as Gandalf had his eureka moment and remembered the password, Tolkien told us that several things happened at once. First, the Doors of Durin swung open, but Frodo felt a slimy appendage grab him by the ankle and pull him into the pool. Their mount, Bill the pony, started and galloped away. Sam rushed to Frodo's side as the Fellowship lay their eyes on a host of snakes writhing out of the water. The sinuous tentacle that grabbed Frodo had a fingered end and was wrapped around his ankle. Sam desperately hacked away at the monster's limb with his blade. He managed to free Frodo, and the two fled into the darkness of the mines. The Fellowship, who had stood frozen in fear, jolted into action and fled as well. As 20 more tentacles burst forth, the water bubbled, and a horrible stench was emitted from the pool. The monster slid its tentacles along the cliff walls right over the threshold of the doors. Tolkien wrote, "If Gandalf was considering what word would close the gate again from within, there was no need. Many coiling arms seized the doors on either side and with horrible strength swung them around. With a shattering echo, they slammed, and all light was lost." Gandalf had a horrifying thought, which he chose not to share with the rest. He noticed that the Watcher went specifically for Frodo, the ring-bearer. Why hadn't the beast targeted Boromir, who was the one to throw the stone, or Bill the pony, which would have made for a nice meal? But no, the monster had sensed Frodo, perhaps because of the One Ring, the essence of evil he carried with him. Or the ring itself might have summoned the ancient evil which then lay in the wake of the Fellowship. So the company was doomed to traverse the darkness of the mines of Moria. They did not know what awaited them deep down below. They soon came across the chamber of Mazarbul, where Gandalf read the last account of the dead dwarves. A grief-stricken Gimli claimed it would have been far more disastrous if the creature had resided at the southern entrance. The Watcher in the Water, speculations explored. When Frodo asked Gandalf what the beast was, Gandalf did not know but theorized that it had been driven out of the dark waters from under the mountains. Places that housed older creatures that the first orcs bred by Morgoth. The Watcher in the Water was said to be one of the Nameless things, which were primordial beings Tolkien first hinted at in the Hobbit novel. The gnawing entities were a few of the oldest creatures in all of Arda, even older than the Dark Lord Sauron. He even suggested that the Nameless things existed way before the Maiar were sent to Arda. These slimy beasts dwelled in the darkness of caves within the hearts of mountains. When the orcs began digging deeper under Goblin Town, a settlement of goblins in the Misty Mountains, they stumbled across channels that were already built by these mysterious beings. The orcs continued to connect these pre-existing tunnels further. The Nameless things, disturbed by the hacking and digging, slunk further into untouched depths where they would be left undisturbed. In other versions of Tolkien's legendarium, the Book of Lost Tales detailed a forest east of Doriath, known as the Land of the Dark Idols. Here, shadowed and corrupted men saw the worship of nameless gods who are said to be older than the Valar and Morgoth. In the Book of David Day, titled A Tolkien Bestiary, he claimed that the Watcher was chose to a kraken bred by Morgoth in the depths of his fortress of Utumno. The kraken-like Watcher was hastily created before the Queen of the Valar, Varda, was able to reignite the stars of the universe. The kraken lived in shadowed pools in the oceans surrounding the Outer Lands. From here, it managed to find its way through tributaries that drained into the river Cyrano. The Watcher in the Water in other adaptations. We got our first and only look at this mighty beast when Tolkien's novel, The Fellowship of the Ring, was published all the way back in 1954. Since then, there have been countless adaptations. The one that comes to mind is, of course, Peter Jackson's iconic trilogy. But first, let's talk about Ralph Bakshi's Lord of the Rings animation, which first came out in 1978. This adaptation portrayed the beast as a slithering mass with green tentacles, which went straight for Bill the Pony as its first course. In the book, also the scene we spoke about earlier, it was mentioned that Bill the Pony started at the emergence of the monster and galloped away. He then somehow found his way back to his home in Bree. Anyway, Bakshi remained loyal to Tolkien's description as the Watcher in the Water trapped the Fellowship within the mountain just as it had done in the books. Moving on to Peter Jackson's 2001 film, The Fellowship of the Rings, the Watcher was wholly depicted through CGI, which was a burgeoning art at the time. As Gandalf scratched his head for the password, the two restless halflings, Merry and Pippin, decided to skip stones to pass the time. As the Watcher's tentacles shot out, it went straight for Frodo just as Sam dove forward to save him. Frodo was dropped and caught by Boromir, while Legolas shot a well-aimed arrow right into the beast's eye. In the chamber of Mazarbul, Gandalf read the dwarves' last record, but did not mention Owen being taken by the Watcher. Peter Jackson decided to portray display only 12 tentacles, which was doable compared to all 21 of its appendages. Also, the director let his creativity run wild and showed us other physical attributes of the beast, like the maw and great eye. These were never really described by Tolkien. Finally, stepping into the world of video games, the Lord of the Rings: The Two Towers video game involved a mission to defeat the Watcher in the water. The player could choose to be either Aragorn, Legolas, or Gimli, who had to slice off each tentacle that emerged from the lake while Gandalf figured out the password. Every now and then, the beast would stick out its head, which called for close-range attacks, killing it slowly but steadily. In the game named The Lord of the Rings: The Third Age, the Watcher in the water attacked Barad-dûr's gang by spouting a reeking breath akin to toxic gas and harmful slime. Yuck. Last but not least, we have Lord of the Rings Online, which depicted the tyranny of the Watcher over the Iron Garrison Dwarves when they foolishly tried to reclaim the mines. The player can only enter Moria after finishing Book 1. After a disastrous first expedition into Moria, the player gains a legendary weapon that could do significant damage to this beast. After 2 more encounters with the Watcher, the player could put an end to the menace once and for all. Is the Watcher in the water a Lovecraftian creature like Cthulhu? In 1928, our world was introduced to the monstrous being known as Cthulhu, born of H.P. Lovecraft's imagination. Cthulhu, the octopoid ancient monster, was one of the great old ones, part of Cthulhu's mythos. Both Lovecraft and Tolkien's writings shared similar themes of primordial entities, generational curses, anti-modernism, and most importantly, how pervasive evil corrupts. So let's take a moment to compare two of their most iconic beasts, aka Cthulhu and the Watcher. 1. Ancient entities. Going back to the speculations surrounding the Watcher, another theory suggested just how ancient the tentacled beast was. It claimed that the Watcher was one of the beasts created before the beginning of time. When the universe was created through the harmonies of the Ainulindale, a great discord was also heard. This was Morgoth, who rebelled against Iluvatar's vision for his universe and sought the power to create life for himself. However, beings like the Watcher were not considered Morgoth's creations. In fact, they despised him as well, just as all evil despises without discrimination. So, the Watcher in the water could be seen as a gross anomaly amongst Iluvatar's creations, one that was sent into deep, dark corners to rot so as to not mar the beauty of Arda. Now, according to Lovecraft, Cthulhu was a being beyond our physical universe and wasn't confirmed to our boundaries of time and space. But in the novella At the Mountains of Madness, it was said that Cthulhu first appeared when the supercontinent of Pangaea broke apart and began forming the continents we are familiar with today. To put that into perspective, Cthulhu could be considered as nearly 1,500 million years old. 2. Tentacled monstrous forms. So Tolkien described the Watcher's tentacles as long and sinuous, with luminous skin that glowed in the starlight. The Watcher in the water was said to have 21 tentacles with fingered ends that clung to Frodo's ankle as it tried to pull him in. The fingered ends of its tentacles also slithered alongside the Doors of Durin just over the threshold before it slammed them shut. The lake in which the Watcher lurked was foul and reeking of an ancient evil. Tolkien typically described his shadowed characters as corrupting the nature around them. The river wasn't meant to be dammed. The stagnant pool was intended to be rotten and rancid. As for Cthulhu, parts of its appearance were deciphered by looking at its statues. One of these was created by Henry Anthony Wilcox, who dreamed of the being as a grotesque mixture of an octopus, dragon, and human. Its tentacled head was said to be pulpy, with its scaled body hoisted by rudimentary wings. Multiple accounts of the creature's appearance suggested that it was akin to a mountain walking, with a writhing face full of feelers and claws that snapped like the loudest thunderstorms. However, Lovecraft's literary executor described Cthulhu as a wriggling mass of tentacles with just one great eye, quite similar to how Peter Jackson depicted the Watcher in his film. 3. Mysterious origins. Perhaps these two monsters invoke the most primal cosmic terror because their true origins are shrouded in mystery. Think about it. How much do we really know of where these primordial entities were spawned? We've speculated on the Watcher's origins. It could be an anomaly in Iluvatar's creations, a corrupted beast of Morgoth, or even a fallen Maiar who chose to hide away in the darkest depths to avoid attracting the attention of the Valar. The theories are endless, but we can say for sure that the Watcher in the water displayed signs of evil intent. Something or someone drew it to the cruelty of the One Ring, a sort of ancient intelligence beyond our comprehension. As for Cthulhu, he was described as one of the priests of the Great Old Ones, who appeared while our world was still coming together. However, there was lore surrounding its true origins. In the mainstream, Cthulhu is said to be from the planet Vorl, located all the way in the 23rd Nebula. It first traveled to Saturn along with its children and star spawn of Cthulhu, and then finally to Earth. 4. Differences. Although the two seemed quite similar, a glaring difference remained. The Watcher was a singular entity, which meant that it wasn't part of a more extensive classification of monsters. Other than the theory of it being one of the nameless things, the Watcher's location and time of existence were unique to it. It was recognized as the beast by the West Gate of Moria, which continually terrorized all those who passed it. On the other hand, Cthulhu, as one of the Great Old Ones, was part of the larger Cthulhu mythos, just like Tolkien's Legendarium. Now, even the Great Old Ones were described as a gang of malignant beings that lurked in every corner of the earth and beyond. Unlike the Watcher, which was considered simply a monster, Cthulhu was worshipped as a deity. Lovecraft detailed the cult of Cthulhu in the novel The Call of Cthulhu. This terrible cult was concentrated in Arabia, but reached as far as Louisiana and even Greenland. The cultists who revealed the tentacled entity believed that its return with its spawn would mean a new anarchic age for humanity. They also encouraged shouting and killing and reveling in joy in praise of Cthulhu, the priest of the Great Old Ones. Marvellous verdict. There you have it, folks. One of the most mysterious creatures in Tolkien's lore explored in depth. Imagine monumental beasts who function beyond an instinctual level. Equipped with their primordial intelligence, they could wreak havoc across the lands if they so chose to. The Watcher instilled unease as an evil that skulked barely beneath the surface of murky waters, while Cthulhu was insurmountable, a force beyond our human understanding. Both were terrifying reminders of our mortality, something that could be swept away by a slimy tentacle. And if you liked our content, don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to us if you haven't already. Have a good one and be safe. Thanks, everyone.